moving past that scene, obviously we cut back to Ahsoka and Sabine.
They're talking at the table.
Yeah. Talking about the Force.
Yeah, talking about the Force. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's the conversation is so dull, and I think, and it's not bad dialogue. I personally saw it as Ahsoka just still not fully like embracing the fact that Sabine's back and that she was gonna be trained. It's just her saying like, "Oh, just do this," or "Oh, just do that." Like it'll come easy if you just try. You know, like that's not the official dialogue, but like that was the vibe. It's like Sabine's like, "I just can't use the Force," and she's like, "Well, it just takes training."
Right.
It's like, well, no, dip it that it takes training. Like, be helpful. Like Anakin never would have like he might have said that to you, but it would have been in a way more like loving, not condescending tone, you know, or like I have no feelings ever, you know.
Right. Which I agree.
Which we've been saying about Ahsoka for the first, part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that. The one cool aspect about that conversation, though, was it gave him kind of like Yoda to Luke vibe, where he's talking about the Force and how it penetrates and binds all the living beings, and every living being has a connection to it, right? Which is a heavy theme of this episode. It's a lot about like the Force and how it connects all the sentient lives, which apparently I mean, since the beginning of the show, I've been kind of like, no, don't make Sabine a Jedi. Don't make Sabine a Jedi. Don't make Sabine a Jedi. But then going back and hearing a lot of people's comments about how George Lucas has been saying this ever since, like, he had the franchise, which was like, every being has a connection to the Force. Every being can wield the Force in some form or aspect. And, I mean, we see that across the shows, right? With the Night Sisters and their magics, with some of the just Force wielders in some of the ancient civilizations, you know? And so it's like, it's interesting to kind of see it, and that's kind of opened my eyes a little bit about being like, oh, okay, yeah, like maybe there's a thing. Like, I don't think it's a cop-out answer like most people are thinking it is, but I think it's a more in-depth thing. And Dave Filoni being like George Lucas's apprentice, you know, taking that and running with it in the way that he thinks that George would be okay with.
Well, yeah, we sent that meme in the chat from the quote from Dave Filoni saying anyone can be a Jedi, and we were all skeptical of that to a degree. We all were because we grew up. It's like, no, Anakin wasn't supposed to be a Jedi. Qui-Gon said, "I'm training him. Sucks to suck," right?
Right.
But then, like 10 minutes dialogue later, she's talking to Hu Yang, and he's like, she's like, she's a Jedi, and he's like, not by the Jedi standard.
Right.
And so it's like our perception of what a Jedi was based on the level of the Jedi Council's decision making.
Yeah.
And so now that that's dead, you know, it's like, okay, Cal, go get a girlfriend. Kanan, go have a kid. Sabine, go wield a saber and try and use the Force, even though it's probably not going to happen. You know, why not? Who says you can't?
Right.
You know, who says you can't?
Yeah.
So, after re-listening to that in the episode, I was like, oh, like, does it still kind of rub me the wrong way that Sabine's trying to be a Jedi or an apprentice? Yeah, but that's just because of how I grew up thinking about Star Wars.
Exactly.
But this new concept of, oh, hey, the order's gone. Who makes the rules now? You know? Yeah. Oh, a gray Jedi's making the rules now? Oh, okay. This probably can slide. You know? Like, it's a whole different perspective on it.
Yeah, well, and I'd argue it's the same perspective, but it's exactly what you're saying of, like, you know, we've grown up with this mindset, right? Because it's not a new idea, right? Qui-Gon, when he's talking to Anakin, he's like, midichlorians, they're within every living creature, right? Every living being has this connection to the Force, right? Kanan, Trials of the Darksaber, everything. You go back and you rewatch that with this idea of, like, anyone can be a Jedi, right?
You see
like,
it.
You see that. So it's not necessarily a new idea, right? But for us to understand that, it's just, like, totally new. Because it's like, right, we're thinking the same thing. When Hu Yang's on the ship talking to Ahsoka, he's like, yeah, she would have been way too old to go to the Jedi Temple, right? Anakin was too old, and he was, like, 9 years old, you know?
Yeah,
and Ahsoka, or Sabine's, like, full-grown woman, you know?
Yeah.
And
Sabine and Ezra were like, basically full-grown.
Oh, totally.
Season 1, Ezra's 15, Sabine's 16.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like they're
already there. She's already 10 years too old, pretty much.
Yeah, totally. And so I think, like, that aspect for me as well was like, a cool moment to definitely connect everything, right? We have Qui-Gon Jinn, and I was a big, great Jedi fan. I love Qui-Gon, Kanan, and now, we have Ahsoka kind of talking about that same thing, right? Does that mean that I necessarily want Sabine to grow with her connection with the Force? Honestly, I think it could have been cool for her, and no spoilers for future episodes. We can talk about what happens. But at this point, I'm like, maybe it is cool if, she's trained as a Jedi, but maybe she just doesn't have the Force, right?
Like a
She,
Grievous kind of thing.
yeah, she made do in Star Wars Rebels with the tools that the Mandalorians have, right? Like,
and she became proficient with the blade.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? So maybe that's what that means, right? Because, again, right, going back to that conversation between Hu Yang and Ahsoka, right? They're like, she wouldn't have made it by Jedi standards, like, according to Yoda and the Council and, what the Jedi used to be during the Republic. And Ahsoka says, well, she doesn't need to be that. She needs to be herself, right?
Exactly.
And so maybe, that's the direction that they take it. Instead of like, okay, we're training her to be a Jedi. She's going to be a cookie cutter, blue lightsaber, Jedi robes, Coruscant, Jedi temple, whatever, So,
I mean, you guys are going to hate this comment. That's why I'm smiling.
Yeah.
But, like, kind of the flaw of the Jedi Council itself, right? The cookie cutter.
Yeah. No,
you gotta be what we say you are. You do what we say.
Well, yeah.
I could get
We're too
behind that.
blind. And all of a
It's
sudden,
more
Anakin's
just
like,
like
"Hey,
right?
I have an emotion," like, and they're like, "Don't
Cut it off."
cut it off,"
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, "You can't stop," and he's like, "What the heck? Like, why can't I be myself?"
Right.
Yeah.
And so we need to move on from this, but like we hammered it out, but like it is a great. I think we've all come to terms with it in a positive way.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I think for those, I mean, including myself, who's been very, not rigid, I've always been someone who's just like, I love what the Jedi were trying to be pre-Clone Wars, right? Pre-war time, where they were peacekeepers, where they weren't soldiers like Ahsoka had said, right? Where it's like, I need you to be a soldier. It's like, no, I don't. That's not who I saw the Jedi be. They had to step up to that role. But yeah, like Ahsoka said in End of Clone Wars, where she was just like, all I've known is war. All I've known is to be a soldier. Like I've been told that I'm supposed to be a peacekeeper, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always held on to that ideal. But now that it's almost like Dave Filoni's taking that back to where it's supposed to be, right? Where it's like these Boken Jedi or these different Jedi who have been taught post Clone Wars, post war. We're bringing them back to what they're supposed to be, which is their true connection to the light side of the Force.